Hello, welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, I'm Simon. This is my 2008 Ford Transit. Is it the wisest choice? Needs must, and it was right at the time. So I've just done the front suspension, the swinging arms, the lower swinging arms and the ball joints ready for its annual inspection. And I did say when I did that it's booked in and all I've got to do is take it for inspection and hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing will happen to it. Well, the very next day, a little tick that I've had got a lot worse. The very next day, it got a lot worse. And I had a little look just to see if I could identify what it was, and I couldn't. It seemed to be much worse on cold start-up and while it was warming up. So I went and got my stethoscope and I'm putting it all around, and it was coming from the timing chain cover. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing on any vehicle, but all vehicles have to have new timing belts, new timing chains several times in their life, and the manufacturer usually gives a recommended distance or year. They don't on this. I don't know why. Anyway, for this region, for northern Sweden, this is actually a relatively low mileage vehicle at just under 200,000 kilometres. And when you first come to a place like this and you're looking at different vehicles, you can't understand why all the vehicles have such incredibly high mileages. And I mean high mileages. Well, there's a reason for that. And everywhere is a long way away. So no matter where you're going, you're on a journey. It's not like in the US. I mean, you do cross country or the UK, you do cross, but most of your trips going into town are short trips. But everywhere is a long trip. Everywhere you're on a journey. A lot of people here spend an awful lot of time driving, because you've got to go places, and each place is far away, and there's many places like this. So this has done 200,000 miles, and as you would expect with a second-hand vehicle, you don't get a full service stamp book, and you don't know when this has been done. And then, anyway, a little bit of research, and it tells me that on certain models of the Transit, the spring in the timing chain tensioner isn't very good. And the timing chain tensioners are oil pressured, which means you only need the spring on cold start up, holds everything tight. Once the engine warms up, the tensioner is then run by the oil pressure. Great. No. Also being Ford, they're always looking for ways to make more cheaper. The engine is not the traditional way round. The timing chain is not in a traditional place, and it's just a mare. And I'll show you what I mean. Timing chain cover. It's on the end, obviously, because it's a transverse engine and gearbox, which means it's in the wrong way, and it's front wheel drive, and therefore the timing chain's on the end. Oh yeah, that's right. There's an engine mount in the middle of the timing chain cover. And I mean it's in the middle of the timing chain cover. So we did this belt tensioner and all the belts and all the pulleys last year, and then just a few days ago we did all the front suspension, and now I've got this timing chain issue, and you can see we have to remove the engine mount, all the wheels, all the pulleys and all the belts. Right, deep joy. So just like the last time, I have my auto dock box of parts. They are smaller this time. Do I need any specialist tools for said van? Yes, I do. I need this, which we have purchased. And this is to set up the static timing on the engine. Right, fortunately, I managed to get it from the Jungle Company, and it was really cheap. Very good. We also need our timing chain kit, which consists of the said fouled item, timing chain tensioner, the timing chain itself, and the timing chain guides. So we're going to replace all of that. Yes, I did see that bug in the background. And then the timing chain cover itself. Okay, thank heavens. Thank heavens for the internet. Because what I learned about this is these don't have a traditional rubber gasket like you would expect. These are stuck on with said paste. And when you pull them off, they bend. And they're very hard to get to seal up again. So I took the liberty of having to order a new one. Said engine mount, said middle of the timing chain cover, and of course the pulley's got to come off. So that's what we're going to be doing. Well, what I understand, and I've got no service manual for this, is we have to jack up the engine by putting a piece of wood on the jack underneath the sump, jack it up slightly to take the pressure off the engine mount, remove the engine mount, remove the wires, and then remove the timing or the belt tensioner and all the pulleys. I'm hoping we don't have to remove the alternator. And then we've got 8mm bolts all the way around, and I believe there's two 10mm bolts at the bottom. I'm not sure, even if we remove the wheel, right, whether that gives us any better access to where we need to go. Yes, that is the famous no VIN number. Or not so famous. All right, so I suppose really then we should dig into this. I'd like to, if it's at all possible, to get this job done today. It's Saturday morning. It's not even particularly early. I think it's something like 09:20. And yeah, I'd like to finish it today if I could, because it's just another thing. So the inspection, well, I had to cancel it. I had to cancel it, and I did it as a precaution because it was booked for today's Saturday, for Monday. And then on Tuesday, I have to go to the city to the airport. And anyway, it doesn't matter. None of that's relevant. So let's take this apart and see what we got. So what I'm going to do is, like I say, I'm going to take the engine mount off, all the pulleys, all the belts, and get the timing chain cover off. And then I'll get you back in there and show you what I find. None of that's gone well. Current time, 5 to 11. So that's an hour and a half. Hour and a half. What have you done, Simon, in an hour and a half? Oh, well, I'll show you. In an hour and a half, I've removed those 3 nuts and these 4 bolts. In an hour and a half, it's taken me to get this off. Well, that's still not off. There we go, 1 engine mount. Hour and 30 minutes. And we've only got part of it off. Obviously the bolts to the engine mount go through into the chassis, right? And there's nothing on the other side to stop them rusting and getting covered in shit. And the other problem was I only had 1 extension. I've got no impact driver, so I've had to go and get the toolbox out of the Toyota to give myself a 2nd extension so I can get above to undo them. Okay, so there's 2 bolts on the top there of that engine mount, and we know there's 3 because if we come over here, obviously there's 1 underneath. Quite clearly there's 1 underneath. So there's 2 at the top, 1 underneath. That gets the engine mount off. And then we've got to take the belt off, and it's the main pulley down the bottom I'm concerned about. You know, there's no room to get into there, and really, I don't know how I'm going to get that off. Or even if I can get that off. I don't know. I'm bluffing my way down here. Alright, 30 minutes later, not bad. Engine mount finally out. All the belts are off. Belt tensioner. Now, I done a video on that. What an arsehole job that is to get in or out. So, I think I might be able to remove the timing chain cover with that belt tensioner in place. I've got a big bar on it at the moment so that I can move it because there is a nut behind it. Okay, so now the next big one is that bottom pulley. Nice, nice, no, not nice, kind of. Obviously there's things in the way. Those 3 big rusty bolts in there, and then I've got to figure out some way of pulling that off the bottom crank. Right, I've been struggling with this for so long. We can't even believe it. Now, there's no special tool. There's no holes. So this is the bottom crankshaft pulley, and this is rubber. Right, and one of the first things I noticed that it was cracked, and it's all rubber. And I thought, well, that looks like a part that's going to fail. Anyway, after a quick bit of research, oh yeah, this is a common failure. Bottom crankshaft pulley. The rubber disintegrates, and if it comes with the belts and it just leaves, you know, and I'm just like, well, who came up with that idea? Anyway, it's rubber. There's no holes or nothing to get anything into to hold it still. So I finally, after this is my 4th attempt at ratcheting and strapping and blocking, and I've got it, I think. Whereas I've just managed to crack this nut here. Right, I haven't managed to get onto that nut yet there, but this nut is damaged. And I can feel the socket wanting to turn and come off. So I risk stripping this now. Stripping the head. Honestly, I hate this. I really, really, really dislike it completely. I might as well just take this out and see how much thread it's got on there and what I'm looking at. Because I got a nasty feeling that head's going to strip. And no, I don't have any special things that you put on the top there to get out broken or stripped bolts. The best I can do is hammer onto that the next sort. Oh, they're long. All right, okay. Well, that's what we're looking at there. Do I think these have been off before? I don't know. That bit of shiny bit could be me, but why is the socket, unless the socket's cracked, why is that socket making those marks? No, the socket's not cracked. I wonder what the deal is with this one up here. If we can get that one onto there. And not even that one feels like it's seating particularly well. Yeah, that's that one. Okay, so after all that struggle and hard work, it's about getting the pulley wheel. They're not that tight in there, but it's about getting the pulley wheel held in place. And of course, we're putting all that pressure and all that strain on this rubber, which is already cracked. Time now, 15:21. A nut extraction set. I'd have had this belt out as soon as it stripped. Anyway, so I tried all the other methods, and because it's in a hole and you can't get onto it, you know, you're quite restricted as to what you can do. So now we're to last resort stage, welding a nut on the back of it. Now I tried it once and I made a fatal error. I tried to put a 15mm nut on a 15mm bolt and weld it up, and the hole's too small. There's not enough wiggle room to wiggle your rod round in there because I'm stick welding it, arc welding it. I'm not very good and I don't like it, and it's not the right... Anyway, I need a bigger nut. So I've got some wiggle room. And I didn't have any wiggle room. So I've just blinded myself with the light on here. Right, there's my first attempt. and it just sheared off because I didn't have enough wiggle room. So I'm going to use, doesn't actually look that much bigger, but it is bigger. But I'm also kind of restricted. Now that was going to be attempt number 2, but that failed before I started. So I failed and failed so far. I'm not really accustomed to failing this many times. Anyway, I'm doing a job I don't really want to do, and a job I don't like doing. So we've soaked it down. You can see where the weld has sheared off there. Thought for a minute that was smoke, but it's not, it's dust. So we've soaked it down with WD-40 again, and I'm going to try and weld a bigger nut on there, but leaving myself enough room to get on it, because we're kind of a bit restricted. Well, we're very restricted. Even just setting the camera up is just restrictive. So we're in the worst possible scenario under here. We just got to clean that off again, Simon, while you're there. It's wet because it's got WD-40 on it. So now that's going to weld, probably not very well. So we need to put a bigger nut. Let me get my nut holder. You see too much. Let's see if this one stays on. No, it's going to shear straight off. There you go. Look at that. That's the second attempt and it's just sheared straight off of there. I don't know what attempt number this is. 5, 6. I'm just trying to get a nut welded on there. We all know that's either going to crack off or it's just going to shear off. Oh, it feels good so far. That's it, that's the nut cracked. Come on, stay with me. Yes, 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 yes. At last. Okay. Patience and persistence. 2 things. Ow! That's really hot. 2 things I don't really have that. But it would appear that many of you think I do. Right, well, I don't really have any choice. See, in another world, this would have been towed out into a field somewhere and set light to. But I'm not in that world anymore. Come on. The struggle's real. Quite how I've got this far without using every F alternative, I don't know. And there goes the camera. You can see the size of nut I had to weld on there. I still don't want to come out. Off, 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 off. So that's what we had to do in the end to get that bolt out. And there's the pulley out. So the back bit is all metal, but the front bit, this is rubber, and you can see it's cracked. It's not good. Finally, we've got the pulley off. We can turn the welder off now, because that doesn't need to be running. So, nut extractor. That would have been real quick and real easy. And here's my failure number one. And it just didn't have enough weld in there. So if you look at how I've welded, you look at the size of the two nuts. I just didn't have enough weld. And that's not even full up, but there was sufficient weld in there to crack it off. Whereas that one, too small. So just go for the biggest nut you can actually get on there if you can get it out first time, and then saves you wasting all that time. That was going to be my second attempt, and you know, just put the biggest one you can get on there, because you need your wiggle room. For anybody that knows about welding, you need to be able to get that right. Okay, well, that's the bottom pulley off. Don't think we need the welding earth on there anymore. I'm assuming now, assumption being the mother and father of all carry-ons, that this is some sort of lock that I've got to undo now. And I say that because, once again, we have the advantage of a new part. I'm going to have to inspect this. I'd hate to put this pulley back on for it to fail in a short period of time. There's my row of bits in order. Oh. And there's my pulley and pulley bolts. Okay. So if we go back down here and look at this, I would say that locking ring twists and pulls out. It's probably something you need a tool for, but we'll see where we go with that. So that being that, and the fact that I'm absolutely sick of this job, and it's now 1600, quite honestly, I think I should go fishing. And I'll say that, I'll show you the weather outside. It ain't nice. It's now autumn. It's August 17th today, and oh, it's raining. The leaves are turning on the trees. You can see yellow in the trees, and it's raining. Can't believe it's raining. See, first spot's coming. Thank you for lending me your car, Peggy. Wouldn't have been able to do it without you, and I'll need to use it again, so I'll just hang on to it for a bit. I've got my light off. And we got the Land Cruiser on charge, because I had to push it this morning away from the back there so that I could get some tools out the back. And these batteries are new, So I'm not quite sure if something's draining this battery or what's going on there. Anyway, anybody's ever tried to push a Land Cruiser, obviously it's virtually impossible even on flat smooth concrete. Come on. I was talking to myself. I'm talking to this lot. Really? Anyway, man, maybe we won't go fishing then. Maybe we'll have a cup of coffee instead of going fishing. So here we are. Right, everything's off. I still haven't taken the tension off, but I did explain I've got a plan for that. So now, we need to get that clip off down the bottom there, and then maybe I can start undoing these 8mm bolts all the way around. Firstly, I better go and consult with Charlotte, because she might want to go fishing whether it's raining or not. It's actually me that wants to go fishing, but anyway. Alright, pulley off. So that's, how many hours is that now? 7 hours. 7 hours. Right. Not because it's a 7-hour job, it's because I'm trying to do it with the most basic of tools. The most basic of tools, and then we've resorted to the worst tool of all, and that's my welder. Anyway. Well, we might as well carry on then. Finally, old one off, so I can see why they say it's so thin that it can bend when it comes off. So finally, next day, 11 in the morning, we're in. This is what we've been chasing. So the little kiddie we got to replace is down there. And we've also got to replace all these guides and the chain. But before we do that, we've got to statically time the engine, which over here, this is what this is for. So this is going to allow me to statically time the engine before I start removing anything else. Now, I'm pretty sure these slots in these wheels have to be at the top, so I've got to turn the engine over so that I can get the timing rods in. So I don't have a service manual or anything like that, but these two here they go into these wheels here until it goes round and they lock into position at the top, I think. And I think that tool down there is for turning the crank, this one, in order to be able to time it. And then I've got this bar here. Right, let's see what we can do. That's the timing pins in at the top. This one and this one. Now I have noticed something. The chain's not loose. Well, it's not as loose as I was expecting to find. So then if we go underneath, right, you can see that the crank is slightly out. It needs to be in this hole here, and it's not. So that means something's out. But the other thing I noticed is the chain tensioner here. Right, that's not actually out as far as I was expecting it to see. I was expecting to see that much further out. I am a little concerned about the oil pump chain being a bit looser than I'd like to see. But, oh, there's play there. There, found it. Right, okay. Yep. Right, so I'm not sure whether the timing, whether it has jumped or just because the chain's stretched. Anyway, I've got to bolt that in there. There's no point in bolting that in there until I've got the chain off. Right, and then I can put the new chain on, move the bottom crank, and then bolt that into place. So I think the next thing is take off the chain tensioner and the guides, all of which have got to come off because we've got all new ones of those. We've got to clean up all these flanges of all this dirty old silicone. And I did manage to do it with the timing tensioner, with the belt tensioner in place. However, it didn't come off. I'm so pleased I bought a new cover, because that is the damage that I caused breaking the seal. Also, it's got a slight bend in it. So this is this locking ring here. This is the bottom crank seal. I have actually ordered a new one with the bottom pulley. By putting a couple of bolts in the bottom and then using a big screwdriver just to twist it, just to see if I can get it timed. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay. There's our problem. Well, it just hadn't pulled it hard enough. There's the lack of tension in the timing chain, and that'll be what's slapping it about. Alright, well, we're in at last. Let's get the chain, the guides and the chain and everything off, and then we can see how much the chain is stretched. I thought I'd show this bit because I haven't seen anybody else show it. So on the cam gears there, you can see an arrow pointing up, right? And if you go up, there's a black link in a chain. Link that black link to that arrow. Same on this wheel. There we go, arrow. Right, go up, black link. Now these are locked off with their locking pins. However, if you loosen the bolts, right, you can move the wheel, but without moving the cam. The cam's locked. So then you center these in the position in their slot in the middle, there and there. And what that does is that allows you to tighten this. See, you've got some flexibility there. So you want to tighten that by getting the arrows top dead center and the black links, 2 of them, where the arrows are. Right, and then pull them apart and tighten them down. But before I do that, I want to make sure I can get it on the crankshaft at the bottom. So just to go over this again then, there's your arrow, there's your black link, there's your new chain guide, there's your arrow, there's your black link, chain guides back on, everything locked in place still. Everything locked in place. And if we go down to the underside, you can see the new chain tensioner is installed there, and the crankshaft is bolted and locked off. Everything is in the right place. Everything is as it should be. All that remains for me to do is pull this pin to release the chain tensioner. And there we go. Okay, now we can unbolt the bottom crank, the timing tool, from there and then from there, and take this off, and we are timed. And the new chain tensioner, and we can now remove these 2 top locking pins as well, if possible. Okay, well that one might need a bit of persuasion to come out. So with everything removed, we should all be in exactly the same place, and we are. And everything is off down at the bottom on the crankshaft. And now we don't have all that play that we had before. Now there's no play in that chain. Okay, we think we're good to reassemble the cover. Now again, I've done it with the belt tensioner because this is another, I don't know, hour and a half to get this lot off. I've done it with the belt tensioner in place, but not with the seal. So to get the cover on, the new cover, without the seal is easy. To put it on with the tensioner in place is not so easy. So I want to find out how easy it is to install this after the fact. Bearing in mind you've got to twist it in. Well, that actually took very little persuading to get that out. So that means, and that's that locked in. So that means we can put that one in easily, which means we can now refit that. Right, I've got the timing chain cover back on, and I've got two of the pulleys back on and the engine mount, which means I've completed the installation of the timing chain, the tensioner, the timing chain cover. Yeah, there's a bit of goo coming out of there, but better to have enough than not enough. Did I manage to get it in with that tensioner in place? Yes. And now I'm about to remount the engine mount there so that I can get the engine back on its mount and off the jack. What I've done underneath was in order to make sure I got the cover in exactly the right place, I just slid the old oil gasket, oil seal over the end of the crankshaft so that I could get this in exactly the right place. And that's just loosely fitted, so I can take it off so I can install the new oil seal and then the new pulley that is en route. And I can't install this until the pulley comes, because that has a separate belt going to that. So now I've got the belt running in the right place. I'm missing this pulley. I've got the pulley, I've got the old one. I just don't see the sense in putting the old one on. And I've got a new oil seal coming. So once I get the oil seal and the pulley, I can install those, install this other belt here that goes across, and I'm done. But we can reinstall this engine mount. So that's what I'm about to do. And I think I've moved everything sufficiently by way of this is just gonna sit back in there. I've got to lower the jack down a bit. Engine mount on, the engine sat back on its own mountings in its own place. It's really a shame I didn't have that oil seal and pulley, because I'm probably only an hour away from finishing the job. Which reminds me, take that and plug that back in. Right, well that's as far as I can go for the moment. I've got that cover to put on, and then I've got this pulley and this belt, but now we've got to wait for that and the oil seal. We are many more days later. Has this van now been stuck in the doorway of my shop for 10 days? 12 days? Yes, it has. Is that a huge inconvenience? Yes, massive, especially this time of year. So autumn is definitely midway, and I should already have tons and tons of wood downstairs. Can I get the wood into the cellar with this van? No, I can't. Anyway, I've been doing alternative things. We've used the tractor to get around and done the jobs with the tractor that's necessary. I've been waiting for this replacement pulley because I just couldn't bring myself to put it back on because I knew what was going to happen. We've missed our inspection date. Many things have not gone well, if I'm honest. So, in this box, we have the new oil seal, crank oil seal, which we're going to fit next. And then we have the new crank pulley. which is vastly different to the old one in every way. Let's hope the diameters are right, eh? Right, the diameters are right and the V's are right. Right, and it looks vastly improved. Let's hope that's the case. So this is the old one. Notice new headlight. I purchased this 2 hours ago. When I went and collected this, I had to call into the local machine hire place that also does belts and tubes and everything else, because I need the correct size belt for the Massey Ferguson tractor and I need some insulated heat inducting. Anyway, so if I go like this, it's going to blind you. Right. So this is the old one and this is the new one. And we can see that would make a vast improvement in its shearing. This one's going to shear. We can see it's all cracked. This one probably isn't. They're the same on the back. No, they're different on the back. Okay, well, I'm going to say that's a significant improvement. Let's hope we never have to change that again. And then with this come the new bolts, because we had to weld the hell out of that one to get it out. And for the next person, should the van survive that long, we're going to put some copper ease on these bolts to make sure they don't seize in. We don't want them coming out, obviously, but we don't want them to seize in either. So, firstly, we will replace the oil seal. Okay, this should come out real easy because I'll just put it in there to line everything up. That should be it out. Right, that's the old one out and the new one in. Oh yeah, that's a tight fit, if ever there was one. Now what we've got to do is knock that round. Well, give me strength. Okay, so doing the crank pulley bolts up. You kind of got to do the reverse of how we undone it by strapping it. Okay, now we should be able to get that on there in the right way. Okay, that is the belt around everywhere it should be, all lined up. take the pressure off the tensioner and that belt should tighten off. Okay, and now we have this deal, which I found pretty strange the last time. Anyway, this belt goes on here and around here, and then we have to literally lever that on. That is how we tension that belt and get that on. So that has actually only taken 40 minutes to reassemble everything. So that's the bottom crank oil seal on, the bottom crank pulley, all the belts, the pulley guard, the accessory belts, and I have no more parts lined up, which means, as far as I can recall, that's fully assembled. So I don't think there's anything else left to do than turn the key, really, on this part of this project. Oh, I'll probably want to take that out of there. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else other than turn the key. We'll see. No noise. Tell you what, that hasn't sounded like that for a long time. And now I've got a light out. See? Why? Why? It's always on the approach to the inspection, everything stops working. Anyway. Sounds nice. Timing's perfect, there's no vibration in the engine. Somehow, another completely successful job. No idea. Anyway, I can move it out of my way now. Fix that light bulb there. And it's going for inspection with its trailer. So the trailer's good, I've done that as well. It's ready to go. Shame it's got another week to wait for its inspection. Anyway, jobs are good and timing chain on a 2006. Anyway, Ford Transit. Thank you all for watching. If you like this content, give me the thumbs up to let me know. Consider subscribing if you're not. It doesn't cost you anything, really helps the channel out, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.